Okay, we continue our discussion on the drawbacks of free trade in this extension video on international trade. The last drawback of free trade is that it is argued to support or endorse economic imperialism. Economic imperialism is a term used for any kind of an exploitative relationship between one country and another, between two countries, on an economic trade. So British colonialism is generally considered to be the best example of this. As you would know, the British Empire for about 440 years exploited underdeveloped countries by forcing them to sell their natural resources and labor at very low prices to England, and also buy the products produced by these British companies in return and only from them. So this was quite a challenging practice in terms of human rights and just the universal values of humanity. It is considered to be as one of the most exploitative practices in economic history. The term empire, British Empire, comes from the term imperialism, but because this term has a somewhat of a negative connotation, the British used the term colonialism to refer to this period in their economic history, which is a more of a neutral sounding, better sounding term that sounds more like just a historical period, colonial period, without inviting the people to think about what exactly this period was, this practice was. And of course, like any other practice, this was also sugar-coated with a claim, an empty claim, that the British were taking civility to this uncivilized world. This was their cover, and under the guise of taking civility to the uncivilized, they went there at gunpoint and forced those nations like India, for instance, to sell their resources almost freely to British companies, and also buy what those companies produced in return, and only from those companies, which is challenging. So in this video over here, you will see a very good discussion of what British imperialism meant for countries that were imperialized or exploited by the British Empire. In it, a parliamentarian in India in current day argues that England owes a very, very large sum of money to India today for all the economic advantages that they extracted from India by exploiting them for hundreds of years of colonialism that they imposed upon them. So lastly, we'll end up with a discussion. So from what we discussed, this general approach or formula kind of emerges. That international trade or trade is a good thing. It benefits all countries involved. If you remember the points made by David Ricardo and Adam Smith in the earlier lectures. However, free trade version of international trade produces some negligible problems for the involved countries, right? So how can we create a global economic order that promotes international trade, but without creating the negative consequences of free trade on the involved countries? So this is the $1,000,000 question, and that divides economists of today. But it's a very good question that deserves close attention. So please give it a few moments and do some research if you need to think about this problem, to have a better understanding of the contemporary economic order.